Good morning to you all, and particularly back in Great Britain, where it's very early in the morning because we're Central European time, and it's just gone 20 past 10 here, 20 past 9 back in the UK. I don't know if you're skiving off work to watch our programme, or whether you're retired and just sitting looking to see what there is on television. You've discovered the true of it, because this is the crunch day today, and we're going to be with you for an hour and a bit this morning, and then come back this afternoon as we're looking at Bunyo on the right-hand side here. We don't often see the start of the race trundling out from the town, but today, say 17, going from Asiago to Selva Valgadena, 217 kilometres. We're showing you the early part here. It's going to be fairly flat, and I suspect there won't be much action to begin with, because the proverbial hits the fan at the back end after 119 kilometres. They'll have covered, they climbed the first climb, the Passo Duran. There are in fact 4 major climbs today, and I mean major. And that man there on your screen now, Alex Zuller, will be under a lot of pressure, but one man missing from the race this morning, and the shock news is that Ivan Gotti, last year's victor in the Tour of Italy, has retired from the race. He'd been suffering with a viral infection, and it got worse. It developed into gastroenteritis, and so his team management and he decided the best thing to do was to retire from the race. So we lost last year's winner. He'd been dropping down the general classification like the proverbial stone, and I think today he'd have been in even worse trouble to stay with the race as it was developing. So sad news then for Gotti to drop out. He was 29th overall at this particular point for coming in today at 12 minutes and 42 seconds down on the pink jersey of Alex Zuller, so he hadn't got a chance in hell of catching that time back. And the overall classification, if you've not caught up with it, your newspapers today as we watch the riders here. Alex Zuller leading by 2 minutes and 2 seconds from Pavel Tonkov, and Paolo Bettini, again the amazing performance yesterday of that man Paolo Bettini. It lifted him up into 3rd spot overall. If you watched our coverage, he was in a breakaway group that got over 15 minutes lead at one particular point, and while they pulled them back towards the end, still he'd got enough time in hand to leap up to 3rd overall, pushing Pantani, who was 3rd, back into 4th spot. Guarini into 5th, and Noe, his teammate, 6th, and Bartoli, his other teammate, in 7th. So the ASIC CGA team now with 3 men up on the in the top 10 places. Gianni Bunyo in the centre picture here, twice world champion, one of the old soldiers of the race. He will be in the race today to really, I think, start to keep the thing together until we get to the first of the climb, then do all he can maybe up the first climb to look after the interests of Oscar Kammerzind, and just to see how he can use his tremendous experience. But I don't think we'll find Gianni Bunyo up at the top of the tree. And also same thing with Pavel Tonkov for Mape Brickaby, having both Pavel Tonkov in 2nd spot at 2 minutes and 2 seconds, and Oscar Kammerzind in 8th spot, the Mape Brickaby rider there at 5 minutes and 21 seconds. So they've got 2 interests today. We're looking here on your screen at the man himself, little Pantani, who today must know this is his day when he's got to have a go at frightening Zuller and taking over that pink jersey. So we're going to have some tremendous racing. The early part, this first hour you're going to see now, will not be much action, so I'll be filling you in with different things as best I can do until we go off air, and then we will keep in touch with the race all the way through. So when we come back on air, it's scheduled for 4 o'clock, by the way, as the kids in pink here wanted to take part in the race. Everybody's wearing pink all over it if they're interested in cycling, but we'll come back scheduled at 4 o'clock, but be prepared for us to come back round about 3:30 this afternoon, Central European time, 2:30 for you people back in Great Britain, as Mr. Bunyo is getting more than his fair share of attention here. We will come back at maybe 3:30, 4 o'clock, and by then we will just about be on the the 3rd big climb of the day. We'll have gone over the Passo Duran and over the Forcello Stalanza, and we should be coming back on air to catch the 2 big climbs at the back of the race. And you see these jerseys here with their names written on the back. It's rather taken from footballers, isn't it? But I like that when they stick the names on the back of the jersey. It's a bit high sometimes for our cameras to pick it up, but you at home can see it. I wonder if you're going down to see if Mr. Pantani's name's there. No, Mr. Fontanelli, who won yesterday, has now got his number covered up, his name covered up, and obviously talking about yesterday's result, that was a brilliant ride by Fontanelli, and now with Mr. Cipollini, who's got to do one thing that today, you can see he's already won 4 stages, that stay inside the time limit, because it is going to be such a hard day. The big men like Cipollini will have to fight their way through to stay inside the time limit. The reason they got all those sort of capes and long arm warmers on and so on is that it's not a very nice day today. It looks like it could be a bit nasty as the race progresses. We'll keep our fingers crossed because the weather across Europe does seem to be getting a bit grotty at the moment. They're going to have a following wind, which is some advantage to them, but there are threats of thunderstorms later on in the Dolomites which loom ahead. So the conditions all right at the moment, reasonably all right. Could be perhaps a little bit warmer, but lying ahead of them with this following wind is going to be some rather nasty weather conditions. Let's hope it does keep fine. Nothing worse than having to descend off the top of a mountain when it's pouring with rain, because that becomes very slippy and sticky indeed, as we've already seen in this race so far. So they are doing their usual thing, ambling along at the start, and let me just take you back through the result yesterday if you didn't catch up with it. Fontanelli won the stage, and he actually said later on that he was happy to take that first spot because he's 33 years of age, and whilst his friend that he beat into second spot, Bettini, and he is a friend of his, he said he's got plenty of time yet to come. The reason he said that, of course, was that Bettini is just 23 years of age, so there's 10 years difference between the two of them, and Fontanelli getting towards the end of his career, he said, well, his time will come, and certainly will for young Bettini. Now moved up into 3rd spot overall. He can climb well. He's a very good little climber, so he won't relinquish that 3rd place very easy today. Seeing 3rd and 3 coming up on your screens at the moment, that is Fagnini, who's leading on the Intergiro part of the competition. There will be an Intergiro today on the way up towards the finish, and the Intergiro is going to be sat just before the climb, the big one, the Passo di Sella Timocoppi. That climb, the Intergiro, will be at the back end of the race, so right between the 4 climbs a day, we've got the Intergiro at Canese, and there won't be many of the field left in contention for that one, I expect. There'll be all up to the climbers to go on that one, so I think the blue jersey will find himself distanced at that particular occasion, and that's who's lying second overall on the blue jersey as it is. Yep, he's got Piccoli at 37 seconds. I suggest that Piccoli's a slightly better climber than Fagnini, and we might find a change on the blue jersey later on during the day. 1:41 on your screen now, a chance to pick these rides out more leisurely. That's Guerini, who I said is nicely positioned in 4th spot at 4 minutes and 21 seconds. And there, a nice view of the Dolomites right there looming in the distance. They head out. I always tell you, don't I? I'll give you more or less a direction where we're going from, and if you can look on your maps, we are heading off now up towards the Dolomites themselves. Asiago, we finished there yesterday. If you can find Trento, that's a big city on your map. You might be able to find Trento and Treviso. Well, Asiago, the smallest place, is midway between those two, and we're going on up in a generally northerly direction, slightly curling round to near Belluno. But if you look on the map from Trento, there's a motorway going due north up to a place called Bolzano, and if you go on up that motorway up through towards Bressone, then you'll find on the right-hand side you should be able to pick out the big mountains. That's where we're going to finish then at Selva di Valgardena. That's the best I can give it at the moment, because we're going to have lots of little tiny towns on the climb up over the top, and then by the time we get to finish, it'll be not far from that big motorway going up between Bolzano and Bressanone. You got it? Good. Right. Again, looking at the Mappe team and the Richo Scotti team. This is just what they want, these rides, just a leisurely warm-up before the action really starts. What will probably happen getting towards, that's Oscar Kamazin down there with the white cross on the back of the red jersey as the Swiss champion. What will probably happen is we get probably about 20 kilometres from the first mountain that one or two of the riders with no ambitions to to be overall in the general classification. We want to try and stay a bit further up the race. We might go and have a little bit of a breakaway, leaving all the top men. That's what happened yesterday, is that those 25 riders drifted off the front, got the enormous lead. We might find one or two of the people who can't climb too well and just hopeful to get to the front of the first climb and then get collected by the top men. That might well happen. They could go a bit quicker. And of course, when you can get towards the top of King of the Mountains, there are special prizes for getting up there. Hello, Mum. Sure sign, by the way, not now because they're trotting along and they know they've got a long way to go, but it used to be the typical story of the Tour of Italy when it was in the last 15-20 years or so, that they would be going about this sort of speed pretty well all day, and then as soon as a helicopter came up and they knew they were on television, the speed would sort of double and they'd rocket towards the finish. The racing really start when the cameras came out. I'm exaggerating slightly, but it had a bit of a reputation of being a race that wasn't always hard fought from front to back, and usually of course it was a benefit of the Italians and not much international interest beyond Italy. Well, now of course it's changing tremendously. You see Festina on the left hand side here. Well, they've come into this race with one ambition, that is to win it, and the reason is they're opening up their operation in Italy, and Festina wanted the publicity, and that's why they've hired Zuller from the Onse team deliberately to see if he could do well in the Tour. Well, of course he's leading in the pink jersey. It couldn't be better as far as the Festina watches people are concerned. It turned out very well for them, but the reaction I mentioned the other day is quite amazing from all the other watch suppliers in Italy. They've been taking enormous great advertisements in the newspapers to promote their product. In fact, today there's a double-page spread for Citizen watches, enormous great double-page spread in the paper advertising their watches. So whilst Sistina's out there bastering the hell out of this race, their competitors are taking advertising space. Talking about advertising space, we're going to take a short break. Come back to us in just a couple of minutes. Again, now it's his turn, so we will now find if this gentleman here is going off, because Boskin has had his moment of glory. Well, 16:46:37. It could be a special attempt on his part to get away and perhaps get up with the leaders when they come to the next climb, or is he going down to meet up with his family? I'm not so sure that the field here doesn't be too bothered about him anyway. But it's an awful long way to go on. But still, there's a following wind today. If you just tuned in to listen to our commentaries, and they're riding on Basso bicycles. This team, by the way, I think Basso frames are imported by my friend Phil Bradley up there in the Barton-on-Humber area. I'm not quite sure he's in Barton-on-Humber or whether he's down in Brigg, Phil Bradley, but he worked for Raleigh some years ago. Oh, yes, Boskin has now got some more food. It's developing to a mobile cafeteria, this Tour of Italy today, but it isn't like this every day, by the way. If you think that every day we start out like this because you only watch the television coverage of the last hour and a half or 2 hours, and you see them really racing hammer and tongs, it isn't like this every day. Today is going to be a special day with these thumping great climbs later on, and I did say earlier on, when Farazin tried to go through his hometown, they went through at 48 kilometres an hour. He never had a chance to say anything except goodbye, and that was it. But today they're much more relaxed because the real action is going to come when we get to that first big climb of the day, and the base of that climb is probably about 90 something kilometres into the race, so we're going to have probably a fairly leisurely run to that particular point, as it's time once more for the food to be handed round. Yes, the lowest part of the 85 kilometres covered, they'll be at a place called Mars, 374 metres above sea level, and then La Stanga, 438, that's after 90 kilometres of racing, so we've got quite a lot of time yet before they really start to motor on this stage 17 of the Tour of Italy, with the big mountains lying ahead. Well, I don't think they're going to go too far away. He's lying 16th overall on general classification. I'm just wondering as to whether his drift off the front was to do, as we've seen twice already in this race, meet up with some of his family, perhaps further down the valley here. But he's getting very determined in the way he's riding, so perhaps he decided to go and try and get himself some advantage over the rest of the rest of the people we had, and also some promotion for the Vini Calderola team who are in the racing scene this time. First time I've seen them sponsored. There's this Basso bike I told you about. I think I say Phil Bradley handles those in have embarked on Humber under the Philby Enterprises. That's what he calls his company that brings these the products in, and they aggressively feel after them. That Calderola Wine Company, they in fact celebrated their 100th anniversary last year, and they're very well known both in Italy and abroad, and the wines are growing very interestingly, being taken now in emerging markets of Eastern Europe as well. So they're obviously making a few bob, putting it back into the sport here of cycling, and they're also backed by a company called Massinvest. And it's interesting here, they're founded in Mendrisio in Switzerland in 1986, and it's a commercial company operating in all sectors of property management and financial consultancy, and has been involved with cycling in one form or another for some time, because the owner and founder of this company is a fellow called Renzo Bordogna, and he was president of the organising committee for the 1971 World Cycling Championships in the canton of Ticino. So where's he gone? Oh, he's still there. So you can see that when the sponsors get involved in cycle racing all across Europe, you find somewhere in there that many of the people who are prepared to put the money up have been involved in cycling for a long time. The sort of tradition of cycling in Europe, of course, we in Britain are part of Europe, I admit that, but we don't have the same long tradition. And when it comes to marketing managers making decisions on where to put the money to promote the products, cycling doesn't always come very high on the list until you were doing some research, as the Prudential people did, who just sponsored the Pru Tour, and they went out, they were looking to sponsor some sport that covered, I mean, the total spectrum, because being an insurance company, they're involved in all the family, right the way from youngsters starting to take out policies, right the way through to older people benefiting from the policies they've taken out years gone by. And we all remember the man from the Pru, don't we? Well, when they did the research, they were looking for something that reflected the image that Prudential has, and they went out and they wanted to try and find a way of getting to a wide audience. And the one thing that kept coming back when they were talking to people, was their interests of their sort of people who had their policies, interest in cycling. And so that's what led to the Pru Tour. The fact that Claire Salmon, the marketing manager there, is also a cyclist, didn't have a bearing on it, although since it has taken off, she's taken a very active interest in the way in which they promoted the Pru Tour. But that was very interesting that they sent out and did research, rather than just somebody saying, oh well, I was a rower at college and therefore we'll go and sponsor rowing or something of that nature. Because a lot of decisions are taken by management to promote their products through a sport which they've been associated with, and one can understand that, really. But in reality, cycling gets a lot more interest from people than some of the chaps with the budgets to spend on marketing ever imagine. So those on the hello, did somebody just come off? It looked like one rider went drifting in towards the corner. I hope he didn't. Perhaps it was a spectator running away. But as I just said, with that Vini Calderola team, one of the co-sponsors, has been involved in cycling for many years now, and you'll often find that the interest is there. They were ex-racing cyclists themselves, perhaps, and I don't see anything wrong in that, but it just shows also, when you go out and do your research, as the Prudential did, it can be done with a logical viewpoint and not just somebody's passion leading towards the sponsorship of cycle racing. Well, it's got a considerable gap he's got at the moment, and when that gets flashed back, I don't think this 2.5 minutes or so coming on towards 3 minutes is the sort of gap that is there just because he's going down to meet his family. He could just nip off the front for no more than about a minute's lead. So I have a suspicion that he was a bit more determined about it. That's why when he got to Boscodin was one of the ones he got up to, because Boscodin was going to meet his family. But one man on his own, who is now on your screen, isn't likely to be able to withstand the onslaught of that massive group behind. Perhaps he's just I don't know, it's an awful long way to go to that first climb as well. They're due to hit the bottom of that climb. Let's have a quick look at the time scale for you. And we're due to hit the bottom of the climb around about 1 o'clock, I would think. So we should be coming back on air on that first climb of the day, all being well. But at the moment, he's got a lonely ride, a long way to go.
There are 4 Grand Slam tournaments, and this...
Lonely leader at the moment, and He's still persisting with this attack and trying to get way off the front, lying ahead of him with his 4 big climbs, including the last one of the day when we go over that one to celebrate the great Fausto Coppi, who burst upon the scene really in 1940 when he won the Tour of Italy, a tender age of 23 when he won that. When he went on that year also, this during the war mind you, 1940, went on also to break the hour record. So Fausto Coppi was a man who was tremendous when it came to riding against the watch. He rode a lot of pursuits as well. At the age of 23, imagine, he was the world champion. He won the Giro. He broke the hour record as well. And so Fausto Coppi is commemorated on the route today, and I'll put you in a picture a bit about him during our programme when we come back on air later on for you. But Coppi, when he won this race in 1940, he won by 2 minutes and 40 seconds, and on one day in 1940 he had 100 kilometres of a lone breakaway when he won the stage from Firenze to Modena, and he came in 3 minutes and 45 seconds ahead of the field, and he had, I say, 100 kilometres of lone ride. That's what Coppi used to do. He'd go away, and one day, for instance, when he ran the Milan San Remo in 1946, he actually covered 147 kilometres on his own and won by 14 minutes, and that was something that Fausto Coppi would do. We've got this lone rider going off the front now. Those would be sort of Coppi treatment, but Coppi wouldn't just go away when the bunch was ambling along like this. He would attack on a climb, he would take off, and he'd ride and ride and ride. And this particular climb we're going over today, the climb of the cellar that Coppi went over there in well, first time it was taken it was in 1937, the Dolomites, but they went over this race before with Gino Bartali battling over the top of this one. So he'd been over there in 1940, Bartali and Fausto Coppi over the climb of the Passo Sella, and the Passo Sella lies ahead of these riders. It's the one where we're going to have the Coppi Memorial Special Trophy Award after 203 kilometres at the top there in memory of that great rider. I know some people switch on and don't know a lot about cycling. There are a lot of books available on cycling, and if you get a copy of Cycling Weekly, which your local newsagent can get for you easily, or you can pop into Smith's or Menzies and find a copy there, you'll find the addresses of people that do supply books. And one company, the Bromley Video people at Barnes, I'll give you the postcode, it's SW130NP, Bromley Video at Barnes, together with Richard Alchin from Sport and Publicity, have produced a book, The True Story of Fausto Coppi, Jean-Paul Olivier. And it's well worth having to read, because even if you're not a cycling expert, very often cycling books are stuffed full of facts and figures and can be a bit on the boring side. But that one was written almost like a novel, and particularly the story about the lady in whites that was very much part of Coppi's life. That gap at the moment, looking on the screen at 2:27, is growing all the time now, and therefore it is a determined effort, I think, of the Vino Calderola riders to go away and stay away from this group. We're going to be off air in just a moment, and we'll keep in touch with the whole thing is going on. So by the time we come back on again, we're not sure exactly what time we're coming back. Probably we should be on air about 1:45, but watch the tennis and the strip coming up. But any time from about 2 o'clock onwards we could be back on air. Certainly we're scheduled to be back from 4 o'clock, but it depends what's happening in the tennis. But I look forward to your company, and whatever happens, if you can't get back or you set your video recorder for 4 o'clock this afternoon, we'll update you with how the races evolve, because right now we've got one lone rider on his own as we're going off to athletics with Tim, and that'll be the international event at Hengelo. And of course a lot of events there as well, being big happenings and record breakings going on, so I hope you'll stay with Eurosport for that and with the tennis, and when we come back with cycling as well. So I'm David Duffield, thanks for your company, and we look forward to being with you later on during the day. Until then, arrivederci. From a back group, it's split now into 3 distinct groups. We've got this man on his own. I'm not telling him the group, he's on his own. Then there's a group containing Oscar Camazin and Rebellin and Luc Leblanc, and then further back down the road is a group containing the pink jersey Alex Zuller, who've been monitored by Pantani, and that has just caught up with him, Bettini, who did a tremendous ride yesterday to move up into 3rd spot overall. You won't, perhaps if you're a tennis fan, have seen our programme yesterday, and you were saying, well, why is he getting a newspaper out now? He's not going to read it, is he? No, the answer, he's going to stuff it up his front. And what they do is he goes over the top of this climb. That's the second climb he got, by the way. He got the first one, so that's helped him in the bank account, because there's prize money at the top of each of the climbs. As he goes over the climb now, this one is a second category climb, and he's helped himself to 700,000 lira. That sounds like a lot of money, doesn't it? But if you knock all the noughts off and divide it, whatever it is, there's not a lot left, is there? There we are. This is a newspaper coming up, and the reason they stuffed the newspaper up the front is when you go down the other side with this cold weather, it can get on your chest, and that's one where you can collect bronchitis. And last year in the Tour of France, Pantani had one bad day when he was coughing and spluttering because he felt cold on the descent. Because when you're sweating, your body, although these special jerseys absorb the perspiration and it goes outwards, if you see a racing jersey of these chaps up these climbs, it's absolutely soaked in sweat. And when you go down the other side, it's going to be being sort of bit personal about this, but when you're going down the other side and the sun's off your back like you see here, and you're descending at around about 50 to 60 miles an hour, the wind gets at you and it begins to develop a great chill factor, because the wind gets onto your jersey, press it against your skin, and suddenly you get very cold indeed. These new modern racing jerseys they've got now have got a nice smooth outer side to them, all zipped up. They're close-fitting jerseys, but underneath, riders in the old days used to ride with woolen vests underneath, a very thin woolen vest underneath. I could never do that. It used to make me scratch. I could never ride with wool against myself, and I used to ride with cotton. The trouble was, when it did get cold, you damn well froze. But the new materials they've got now, inside these racing vests, it's quite how can I describe it, fluffy inside. It's nice and smooth and shiny on the outside and fluffy on the inside, and it will absorb the perspiration and it will keep you warm as well, but not when you're dropping down off the top of a mountain. So that's the reason they stuffed the newspapers up the front. Right, back to the little group here with the ever-present Kelme riders. They're always pretty good when it comes to climbing up the mountains. Anyway, the Kelme Costa Blanca Eurosport riders, must well mention that, because we do sponsor in cycling. We don't here, but the Spanish side of our operation sponsor riders. And right now at the moment, that man Chepi Gonzalez, he's Colombian, and Chepi Gonzalez, again, if you're a newcomer to cycling, I'll try and keep all you, oops, we're losing the pictures now up there. Yes, we got it back again. No, we haven't. Yes, we have. No, we haven't. Yes, it pays your money, it takes your choice. On the 2nd of June, on the 81st Giro d'Italia, and right, we're back again. Again, I've mentioned to the viewers who follow us all the way through about this Chepi Gonzalez. Not in this group, he's in the group up in front. He won a stage in the Tour de France in 1996, and Gonzalez, extremely good mountain climber anyway. He's had the green jersey as mountain climbing leader on the Tour of Italy in the past. He lives with his mother, 5 sisters, a wife, and at last count, 1 daughter. I don't know if he's got any more since that, but he's 12 months old, this information. I was trying to find if his wife's given birth to another daughter, but certainly living with his mother, 5 sisters, wife and daughter in Colombia, he is what you call the super breadwinner. There he goes on the front at the moment, cheeky little Chepi, being followed by Oscar Camazin of the Mape team, and they're getting on toward the top of this climb. You see the gap there on your screen? This is the gap back between our lone leader and this chase group here at the moment, and as Chepi goes over the top, getting 2nd spot in the King of the Mountains competition at that particular point, and some money as well, because he's now got himself in 3rd spot, 500,000 lira. Translate that into Colombian, whatever it is. And let's see now what the gap back to the main field is going to be, because our interest, whilst it's good to see that Luc Leblanc, Rebellin and Camazin have gone away, there is the chase group. This is the really important one, and I'd have thought once we go to the top of this one, the Festina riders have got to start and pull that one back, because Oscar Camazin, 5 minutes 31 seconds down on the pink jersey, could begin to look a bit menacing. Because after this little lot, we go suddenly down the other side and then up to the climb of the Marmolada. Now, it's some distance off the top of this climb to the start of the next climb. They've got some 22 kilometres to go until they get to the next climb. That's about, what, 15 miles? Yeah, about 15 miles it is, with a little blip in the middle. So they've got some 15 miles to sort out before we got the Marmolada. And that one, that's a 14.6 kilometre climb. So on the descent, they won't eat up a lot of the distance between this little group and the bunch in front. In fact, the bunch in front, being slightly smaller, will descend the hill rather quickly. 171 there, Clavero for Vitola Chiguras on your screen. Who else can we spot out for you? Well, you can see Pantani in the green jersey, and going up through, the chase has got to be led by the... Now, see, Mappe aren't going to help at all. On the right-hand side, you can see the man... Oops, he dropped it. In fact, I think it was Bunyo who dropped his drink then. He went up to get the drink, put his hand out and bashed him. It is Gianni Bunyo, the man who I said is probably the boss of this lot. 5:18 is the gap back to there. So with Kamazin starting out this morning at 5 minutes and 31 seconds down, they're up and just saying, come out the way, please, and just drifting. So it's Velimir Belli, the Italian, just touching Bunyo on the side. So look, I'm coming through to look after my man. And there we are, another glorious view of the Dolomites. And as the summer comes on, there's some lovely, beautiful flowers around here. Buttercup, pink rhododendrons, some nice alpine poppies. It can be, not here at the top where it's so barren, but as further down you go in the Dolomite area, it's quite a nice part of the world anyway. And we're going up into this Alto Adige Sud-Turul part, and we saw some of the houses further on, but I will shut up and just keep an eye on the race, and I'll talk to you about the part of the world once we get down the other side, because this is the bit where we have to keep our eyes on people who might go too quickly around the corner and fall off in a big heap. So I must keep my eyes open for somebody disappearing down the grass and ending up in the bushes. It's happened before, and we had it already in this tour a few days ago, in fact nearly 10 days ago now, when they went over a mountain before the finish, dropped down the other side. It was straight run down the mountain, some 8 kilometres, 5 miles into the finish. It was pouring with rain, it was twisting and turning, a very bad descent indeed, not like this one, nice wide roads and nice dry conditions. And as they whipped round one of the corners, Pantani was leading, and suddenly he just lost his front wheel. It just skidded, down he went, and Zuller, who was always falling off, that's the fellow in the pink jersey there. Well, I'm exaggerating, but poor chap seemed to fall off more time than soft Mick. Well, Zuller, just trying to avoid Pantani, followed Pantani into the grass verge and down the slope, and they both ended up just in the bushes, and they got out again. Fortunately, it was a soft landing as far as they were concerned, but it can be rather nasty. We had cases, I'm talking to the non-cyclists here, by the way, so please forgive me if you know these stories, but we've had cases in many years gone by of riders going over the side. I mean, this isn't too bad here, as far as you can see now, but sometimes we've got the Armco to try and stop them now, but it has been known for riders to go over the side of the road and down the mountain and fall a tremendous distance. And there's a wonderful story of actually true story of a Belgian rider whose name escapes me at the moment. He went down over the top, fell down the other side, and a very steep descent, and he crashed into a tree branch, and he was hanging there, and his bike went right away down into the valley. And to get him out, the tyres they're riding, many of them ride now with what I might call more normal tyres. That's like we have an outer cover, an inner tube, and it goes into like a little U-shaped well for the rim. But quite a number of them still ride on what is known as tubular tyres. They've got the whole of the outside of the tyre with the tread and everything else all stitched together, and the inner tube is inside it, and they blow it up and it sticks on the rim with glue. And there we are. This is the list then of all those that are retired so far. Uchikov down there, the TVM. I'll tell you a story about those two in a minute when I finish talking about the van falling down the mountainside, but 155 and 158. Don't let me forget, I'll come back to that one. When he went down, dropped over the top and was down there, to get him back up again, from the team cars, they got out all these tubular tyres and they tied them in a knot, so they all tied them together. And, oh, he's gone! Cipollini's retired today, 17. Look at this lot. Oh, Baldato's gone. Oh, dear me. TVM have lost another 2. Larsen's gone. Cipollini's gone. Conce's gone. Ooh, a thinning down of the field. Oh, I thought Cipollini would soldier on into Milan, but obviously he hasn't got the Ciclamino jersey. That's the one for the points leader, and so he's decided to knock it on the head. Mr. Cipollini, Re Leone they call him. He's won something like 108 races this time. He's already got 4 stages in this race, and he's the man who's got a superb house in Monte Carlo with 5 rooms, a swimming pool on the top, a Mercedes. There he is. He's gone now. That's a fella. You can smile. He's gone back to play with his Puma. He's got a horse, a parrot, a cat, a dog, a puma, a wife, a daughter, a Mercedes, an Audi, a Harley Davidson, of course. Every racing cycler makes a bob, buys a Harley Davidson. He's got all of those things, and he earns about £450,000 a year. Welcome then to the coverage of the Tour de France after the tennis has had everybody on its feet there. We're now really waiting with bated breath for this lot to erupt on this 17th stage of the Tour, 217 kilometres, because the splinter groups have been going off down the road, have been causing all sorts of havoc to the Festina team here, driving hard to try and look after the interests of Alex Zuller. And Zuller in the pink jersey still got through his teammates there to pull him along. The thing has actually been split at the moment, wide apart at the seams. Had early breakaway. I don't know if you saw early programme in the in this morning. We started at 10 o'clock this morning, and we had one rider drift away off the front. In fact, we had a couple of riders drift away off the front, and first of all it was Boscardin and Andreotti, two of these riders who went one after the other to go away and have a little look at their local village and some relations and what have you out there. Another chap slipped off as well, Leonardo Calzavara, and when he went away they all let him go and thought, well, he's just going off to see a village as well, but he built up a tremendous lead, and at one point he was down the road for like 7.5 minutes ahead. But bit by bit the field have been reeling in him and the escapers, so it's been quite a day when the with the long lone break of that man from the Calderola team, that certainly gave us something to talk about. But now with 50 kilometres to go, the big guns are starting to fire, and you can see it's splitting up on your screen right now at the moment. Well, it has been in two entirely different groups as we're coming up to this particular part of the race. And in the front group, we've got Leblanc, Rebellin, Salvadelli, Bobrick, Chepe Gonzalez, Camazin, Buonara, Tronca, Scambilleri, Forconi and Di Renzo. They were in that early breakaway group, but it is splitting now on this climb, and we have a group behind. So it really has begun to really break apart on the climb right now, with 50 kilometres to go to finish. The pink jersey looks like he's just controlling himself at the moment and not too concerned. He's still got Pantani just behind him and Tonkov. They're the main threats overall in general classification. Let's just run into the position on the GC at the moment. Alex Zuller for the Festina watches is leading overall just by 2 minutes and 2 seconds from Pavel Tonkov, who's in the group with him right now. Paolo Bettini has been dropped off the back, and he's now with the third group. He was third this morning. He was the man who leapfrogged yesterday right at the general classification by virtue of his superb ride on the stage yesterday. In fact, he went up from 32nd to third overall, Paolo Bettini, but I think he bust a gut doing that, and right now he's sagged off the back, because we're looking here at Chepe Gonzalez, Camazin, together with the rider from the Vitalicio Seguros team that's just beginning to press them at the front. I think that's Buonaharo. But these riders at the front now have split away from that little group. I mentioned earlier on we had Leblanc, Rebellin, Salvadelli, Bobrick, Tronca, Scambilleri and Di Renzo and Forconi. Well, these three are now drifting off the front of them and pressing on their own up the climb, and with just inside 50 kilometres to go from the finish now. They're on the climb of the Marmolada, this very famous climb. It's going to be up 2,057 metres above sea level, and it's a long old drag to the top. They're actually climbing a distance of 14.6 kilometres, say 15 kilometres. 16 kilometres is exactly 10 miles, so it gives you some idea of they're dragging themselves up the thick end of 10 miles, and it climbs up from a distance of 1,014 metres above sea level to a height of 2,057 metres above sea level. So they're going to climb 1,043 metres in 10 miles. So you can turn that virtually into yards, because the yard is just a bit, it's a bit shorter than a metre 3 yards and 3 inches or something, isn't it? So it's just over 1,000 and what, maybe 1,100 yards of, so that's going to be 3,300 feet in English money. They're going to climb in 10 miles. So it's like this all the way up, progressively twiddling away on the lowest but one gears, and it's just a wearing down process. They'll go on to get the top of the Marmolada. Then they'll have covered 174 kilometres this race, or be more precise, 175, and then off the top of there, down into Canazai, and then up the Passo Sella for the big climb of the day, 2,214 metres above sea level for the Cima Coppi special prize, and they swoop down off that in towards the finish at Selva di Val Gardena. So a tough old day in the saddle today, and Pavel Tonkov in this group at the moment with the pink jersey of Alex Zülle. The time gap between Tonkov and Zülle this morning was 2 minutes and 2 seconds. So watch out for the Mapei Brickaby colours. They're the sort of palish white ones. This fellow here on your screen at the moment, Oscar Kamazin, he also rides for the Mapei Brickaby, but he's got the Swiss national colours on his shoulders. He's with Chepi Gonzalez in the green pants for the Costa Blanca Kelme Eurosport team, and alongside them at the moment, that rider number 177 is Herman Buonahora of the Vitalicio Seguros team. So 2 Colombians here. This is the 30-year-old Colombian Buonahora. In fact, he, if I remember correctly, he retired for 1 season. He's come back again now. Little Chepi Gonzalez here on the front for Kelme is always a cheapy chap. He took the green jersey last year in the Tour of Italy as the best mountain climber, and you can see what the pain and suffering he's putting onto the face now of Buonahora. Buonahora, 30 years of age. Let's find out how old Chepi Gonzalez is, just to show you. 29, so there's two. Hello, this is like the elastic's broken. Another one of the blokes in that leading group. This is Scheffer for the ASICS CGA team. He's now been shelled out as well, so he'll be shuffled up by the remnants of the main group coming through. So it is splintered all over the place at the moment, and poor old Bettini, who was third this morning, I think he's now going to find himself out. Oh dear, the elastic's gone as well. This is not so good. The Rebellin's just going backwards, and look like Blanc's going backwards too. So the work that's being done by these 3 riders on the front is playing havoc with the group they were with originally. They really have now started to cause enormous damage to the hopes and aspirations of the people behind, but only of this group here, Oscar Kamazin, to start this morning 8th place, 5 minutes 31 seconds down, represents a threat to that man there in the pink jersey. So I think Zülle will be quite happy to keep his eye on Pantani, and there Tonkov, there they are side by side. That's Pantani in the green, there's Tonkov in the blue and white. Those are the main protagonists for the crown, the people who today would like to take that pink jersey off for the shoulders of Zülle. But Pantani this morning, 4th overall, 3 minutes 48 seconds down. Tonkov, 2nd overall, 2 minutes and 2 seconds. There, Tonkov's starting to move forward. Now Zülle has to roll up with this one, I think, because Tonkov is a very powerful climber on this climb of the Marmolada. He'll go up here at a very good pace, and certainly Zülle wouldn't want to follow Pantani, who accelerates like a little rocket, then slows down, then goes again, and one by one you see these riders they're picking up. Those are the riders from the rest of that group that are up in front. But Tonkov now, is that just a little sounder? So he's riding much more powerfully. He's inclined to push a slightly higher gear than Pantani, who's moving up too as well. And the green, the pink jersey's gone. Zülle's drifted back. He can't hold either of them. Now that's dangerous for him, because Marco Pantani here, you see 4th overall, 3:48. It's going to be a lot to pull back today. Inside, what, about 40 kilometres ago, about 25 miles, and suddenly they're going past those blokes from the early break who begin to struggle now. And that's Rebellin. Davide Rebellin of the Polti team has been reeled in, and looks like he's going to be spat out the back. The legs have gone, the hopes, the aims, the aspirations of a good ride today have now disappeared for Rebellin, and up in front, Luc Leblanc will be hoping to hang on. Guerini still their best placed man for the Polti team, and here he is at the moment. Guerini's hanging on here. Guerini then to 4:21. Looks like he's moving with the Pantani, and Tonkov efforts to go away. Pantani looking very smooth indeed, right on that inside ring, around about 30-90. So the Tonkov Pantani tandem has now got a hanger on, because Guerini this morning in the red and yellow colours of the Polti team is now beginning to pick up his teammates Rebellin and Leblanc, who are down the road. He wouldn't attack them before, but now he's seen them coming back. So Guerini 5th this morning overall at 4 minutes and 21 seconds. Quick recap then, the danger to Alex Zülle in the pink jersey. The man in the green, Leader on the King of the Mountains competition. Pantani, 3:48 down this morning. He has with him Pavel Tonkov, the major threat, at 2 minutes and 2 seconds. Guarini at 4:21. And the pink jersey now, you see how he's being marked by the Mapei riders. They won't do anything to help him. There's riding alongside here, just hovering, saying, well, come on, sunshine, we'll just ride with you. This must be psychologically a terrible blow to Zulla's confidence, because it seems that the last man, Belli, of the Festina team, has had difficulty helping him on the climb, as Pantani looking very comfortable indeed on the left-hand side of your screen. Number 91, Pavel Tonkov, who was second in this race last year, won it overall in the year before, and now they're picking off these riders one at a time on the way up. That's the Pelan rider they're now picking out. That's a Tronka. They've got him and gone past him, making it look so easy the way they're climbing here. But the man who's struggling right now at the moment, Zulla, and he's surrounded by the Mapei cohorts of Kamazin and Tonkov down the road, and yet he's still got Belli with him at the moment, though. Just one of the Festina riders. They haven't really brought in their strongest group of climbers here, because Dufo, having been riding in the Tour of Romandy, went off to ride another stage race. I think Dauphiné Libéré, which it was, well, which one it was, Midi-Libre, that's right, which he was riding in. They've got different teams, the Festina team. They built one team round Zulla, but I don't think they've really brought as many good climbers as they should do with them. And this is the moment when really Zulla's got to hang on in there, just ride his own pace. He's done it before. He's a very confident man, and I think what he'll work out, providing he can stay there or thereabouts with Pantani and Tonkov, then he'll be okay. We've got another big day in the mountains tomorrow and the day after that, but then of course we move into the time trial, and we all saw in the time trial stage how this man on your screen now smashed everybody out of sight. I mean, he caught Pantani for 3 minutes in the time trial and stuffed him for another 23 as well. So 3 minutes and 23 seconds, 3:23 knocked out of him in the time trial. So Zulla's whole tactics, I'm sure, will be to ride this climb within himself, just to stay, let the others go down the road, let him carry on with what they want to do, because he's still got the chance. Even if the pink jersey is under threat, he could stay close to them enough to blast them apart in the time trial when we get to that on the Saturday. Oh, Chepe Gonzalez, is he sliding off the front? He is. Well, Gonzalez here at the front, still off now on his own. There was that little group there of Kamazind, Burahora and Chepe Gonzalez. It looks like he's beginning to drop the other two on the climb up towards the top of the Marmolada. And I'll just have a quick look in my notes here, amongst the thousands of bits of paper which are blowing about all over the place. The Marmolada is a first category climb. He'll get 10 points in the King of the Mountains competition. We already saw him in the other climb down the road get the over the top of that one at the front, so he's got 5 points for that, 10 for that, 15. He won't actually catch up on the green jersey. He's not really been scoring so far in the King of the Mountains, but of course tomorrow and the next day that green jersey could be under threat from the rider from Colombia riding for the Calme Costa Blanca squad, because Pantani's got the green jersey, but the points are quite interesting. Not like on the Tour de France, when we have massive points for about the first 25 riders over in the first category climb. In the first category here, they have 10 points for first, then 6, 4, 2 and 1, only down to 5th place. On the second category climb, only the top 3 get points, 5, 3 and 1, and the third category climb, only 3, 2 and 1. But we are, when we get to the final climb of the day, the Passo di Sella, there's going to be a special 20, 10, 6, 4, 2 and 1. So there are 35 points up for grabs today for somebody who can top every one of the climbs. So Pantani could be slightly under threat from Borno for that green jersey, but I think he would like now just to get up there to Borno and probably get the stage victory today. Pantani often rides for stage victories. He would like to get the overall jersey, of course, but his main thing is to go up there and show himself in the mountains. And it looks to me, the way those Mapei riders are riding round Zulla, that he's in trouble. They won't go past him, they won't give him any shelter at all, but he's dropping back a bit. His long, lanky bronze legs have got to find some more power to get up the top of this climb at the Marmolada. And still they're beginning to pull back those riders who earlier on were in that lead group. They're splattered all over the hillside now, and If you didn't hear our early programme, because we did come on air round about, was it 1 o'clock-ish or something? We did an early bit this morning from about 10:30 Central European time till nearly midday. There'll be another little burst on the old banjo, and if you didn't hear that bit in the midst of the tennis, Cipollini has retired. We've had quite a whole stack of, must be about 8 or 10 riders have retired so far. They just couldn't face the climbs we've got today. If you add up together the climbs, 12 kilometres the first climb, 13 for the next, then 14.6, then 11.6 kilometres. They will actually, by the end today, have climbed 55 kilometres. That's some 35 miles of climbing. Imagine that in a race of 217 kilometres today, that these riders will actually be climbing up some 35 miles of climbing. And it's not just your easy climbing either. It really is saps your strength, riding up here with the sun beating down on the backs. And coming into today's stage, they'd covered 2,960 kilometres of racing. So right now they've certainly covered well over 3,000 kilometres of racing in the 16 days today, this being the 17th day of the race. That's around about 1,850 miles they've covered so far since we set off from France and from Nice on the Sunday. If you go back from this last Sunday, it was, what, 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks and a bit ago now. Just imagine that, riding over an average about 120 miles a day at an average speed at the moment. The average is 40.212 kilometres per hour. That's just over 25 miles an hour they've covered ever since they started out 16 and a bit days ago. And no rest either. There's no rest day in this race. Every day you're on your bike right the way through until we get to Milan on the final Sunday. And in Milan, I was looking for Cipollini to try and take the stage there to give him 5 victories in this year's Tour of Italy. But Cipollini has now retired from the race, so he can go back home and count his shoes, of which he's got several hundred, or count his shirts, of which he's got even more, or play with his Puma. That's I'm not talking about the sports shoes. He has got a real live Puma, and a cat, and a dog, and a horse, and a Harley Davidson, and a Mercedes, etc. He's gone back for the race now, and I think he just couldn't put up with the terrible day which lay ahead. And by the way, if you didn't hear our program this morning, because this may be on your video, you experts in cycling who set your videos to get the recording when you get back at home and watch what went on. I sometimes may forget to put you in the picture, but I did put out this morning, and if I'm repeating it to people who heard it on earlier on the program, please forgive me. But the big news as we started today was that Gotti, as we're now watching Chepe Gonzalez ploughing toward the top of this climb, Gotti, last year's victor, retired from the race yesterday. He staggered into the finish, and that was it, and he called it a day. And so Gotti is now out of the race. He dropped way out of contention, really. He hadn't got much chance of getting through to Milan in anything like the top 10 position, as he drifted off the pace and was something around about 29th down on general classification. So I'm not surprised that he decided that he'd had enough and called it a day, so he's on his way back. So Psycho Cannondale are getting a bit thin on the ground. They've lost Cipollini, they've lost at least another of their riders. They lost early on in the race, they lost one as well, so they've now probably got about 3 if not 4 riders, the Psycho Cannondale people. So all the huff and puff about their lightweight bicycles, it's still the man on the bike that does the pedalling. And at the moment, the man who's doing the good work here at the moment, Pantani, eyes fixed in the route ahead, looking to see where Buonahara's got to. Buonahara should, at this rate of knots, be able to take the climb and take the special prize at the top, because not only does he get points in the overall King of the Mountains competition, as this being a first category climb, he'll collect 1 million Italian lira. Yes. I suppose when we get to the ECO, or the Euro, that's right, called the Euro. They do want the Euro. At least it's going to be easy for us to work out what the money is like. And here, the Swiss rider riding for Festina in the pink jersey is now beginning to be distanced and completely on his own. There's nobody round about to help him. He's decided he's got to do something to try and pull back that Pantani and Tonkov up in front that are a threat to his overall classification. And now, what can he do about this one? And then Chepe Gonzalez. So we've got a race within a race here. Gonzalez trying to take the victory. We'll take the King of the Mountains here at Marmolada. See, they're 2,057 metres above sea level. He's looking to take the prize at the top, the million lira. And further back down, the battle going on for the pink jersey between Pantani, Tonkov, and Zuller. The appreciative crowd out here. The Italians are well known for their way in which they get involved in sport, whatever it is. It's motor racing, rallying, or cycling. They get out up in the mountains way up early in the day because they're closing the roads out 2 or 3 hours before the race comes through. So these vehicles you see on the left-hand side, the camper vans, have been camped out all night. It gets very chilly here because up in these Dolomites, the weather conditions can be very chilly at night. The snow is still there, and getting towards the top then of the mountain, this wonderful stretch of mountains. Actually, we're at one time a big coral reef that got pushed up in the ocean, and that was millions, tens of millions of years ago. And since then, the snow, the rain, the wind has carved some most unusual shapes out of the mountains. But the man who's going to come over the top of this very famous climb, the Marmolada, in first spot is going to be Chepi Gonzalez, last year's winner of the King of the Mountains competition in the Tour of Italy. So that's it. There's £1 million in your back pocket, young man. Have a drink on me. It'll probably be water. And now he's just checking to see what the time is back to the chaser. There, well, you can see it yourself on the clock there. The rundown clock will show the gaps, but we're going to have to do a double check, by the way, on the climb up here, because at the start of the climb, I think it's only about 3 minutes the gap back to the chase group for. Oh, he's gone now. Sorry, I'm in trouble here. And then another 1 minute to 20 to the pink jersey. So at one time there was over 5 minutes between the leaders and the pink jersey, but it's coming down now under the pressure of Pantani. There are 1 or 2 scattered riders between. We're following the battle between Pantani, Guerini and Tonkov et al. But don't forget, Kamazin is also. So a lot of cameras are picking it up here. We're not doing a whole lot, by the way. There are 1 or 2 of them on the way up here. That as Gonzalez gone over the top, there's Bunahora and Kamazin between this group here. So they're not going over in second and third, despite where the camera's looking now. Bunahora and Kamazin have already gone over the top of here, and so Pantani. Let's see what the gap's going to be back now, and Guerini. But the big check is now. As I press the clock between Pantani and what is back then to Alex Zuller. That's the most important thing, is the gap back to Alex Zuller and to Tonkov. Here he is, here's Zuller. So the 134, 135 on the side, a bit confusing that. That's the gap between Chepi Gonzalez and Zuller. Just look at his face, see what sort of state he's in. I think he's just still riding at his own pace here. And Guerini, who's been letting Pantani do most of the work, on the descent might start to roll with him. He's a somewhat bigger bloke and give Pantani a bit of shelter on the descent. So for Guerini, this is a good moment for him, because he's not a particularly famous rider like Pantani. In fact, checking back on his results now, he's had what, 1, 2, 3 victories in his career, which started way back in 1993 with the Navigare team. So he's one of those domestic type riders, but he took third in the Tour of Italy last year, and now he's out there with Pantani, so he's quite a threat when it comes to the climbs. He also was, third the Tour of Romandy in 96 and second the Route du Sud. So Guerini, as our commissaire tells our motorcycle to get the hell out of it, is going to be quite a useful aid to Marco Pantani. And that clock's still running here on the screen. Well, my clock says 1:25, 1:26 back between Pantani and the pink jersey. So let's wait and see what happens when you get to the top of the climb here. Remember, they started out this morning, the gap between Pantani and Zuller, 3 minutes and 48 seconds, and we've gone over the top down by the lake, and there we are. That's 1:49 I make it now. So of the 3:48, there's still a couple of minutes. He's still got a couple of minutes in hand between himself and Pantani on the overall classification. But the other threat, of course, is Tonkov, who will be trying to distance himself as well. So we've got quite a complex situation at the moment, because Tonkov originally went up with Pantani. We didn't get him on our time scale, so Tonkov is wedged between these two as well. So as far as Zula's concerned, whilst we've seen Pantani and we've seen Zula, Tonkov was not far behind Pantani. So 1:49, there's probably round about a half-minute cushion for Zula between himself and Tonkov. But if Tonkov and Pantani get together, it's going to be a different kettle of fish. Well, down we go, dropping off the top of these beautiful mountains and round the large lake and heading down. It's a very higgledy-piggledy, squiggly route we're taking on the drop down now. We've just gone past that beautiful lake you saw on the left-hand side. That's the lake at Fedaya, and we'll drop right the way down to the bottom to Kanzai, and then we'll start to go up the climb to the finish at Selva di Val Gardena. They go over the top of the climb, which is dedicated to Fausto Coppi, and then down the other side. So they've got the Passo Sella yet ahead of them. A good long drop down here. It's something, what, in the region of 18 kilometres down. So big long swoop down here, and they're going to drop down, and Zula still confident he's got the pink jersey, but he's under all sorts of pressure. On the descent then in towards the Giro, the next little bit of activity at Canazai, and then the climb up towards the Passo Sella, where the big crowd waiting to see the riders come through and to celebrate the great Fausto Coppi. There's a special prize at the top there, and we've already seen this man on your screen now. Gonzalez take the top of the previous climb at the Marmolada, where he got himself $1 million Italian lira for that one. If he hangs on to the top of the Passo di Sella, he's going to get a lot more than that, because the prize at the top is 3,500,000 lira. But they're closing the gap down now as Pantani, together with Guerini, they've collected Camazind, who was wedged in between them and the lone leader Gonzalez on the road. So as they come along now, these three, and also Tonkov's been hovering between this group and the front group. So poor old Zula is in all sorts of problems at the moment. His team have been unable to stay with him, and so the team manager has come up now to give him some instruction, tell him what's going on, and I think probably sensibly too that Zula, once he went over the top of that climb, has allowed this little group then to come round about him. But certainly the Mappe riders won't help him go away, because Mappe Brickaby have got Tonkov and Camazind down the road, nor will he get any help from the riders of the Mercatone Uno team, because Pantani is riding for Mercatone Uno in the green jersey, and there he is right now at the moment. They've got Bunahora with them. That's Bunahora at the back then, the Cumberland. We saw him riding originally with Gonzalez till he got dropped off, but they too are putting the pressure on now. You can just see that Pantani, and 141 is Guerini, and Camazind just sitting back in there. He's been out there an awful long time now, Camazind, and he will be told the position of the race. And of course, with the two cars to play, both Camazind and Tonkov, Mappe are sitting very prettily indeed at the moment, and the man in trouble is in the pink further back behind this fellow here, who desperately wants to go to the top of the climb to get that 3,500,000 lira for the top of the Passo di Sella. The actual climb itself, 11.6 kilometres, and once we're over the top, it's going to be a very fast descent into the finish at Selva di Val Gardena. They're going to drop the way down. There's a bit of a flatness around about 3 or 4 kilometres in towards the finish. You can see now he's coming through here, getting that very comfortably indeed, and the time clock on the right hand side will show you the gap back. But this is going to be interesting to see just how far back, not so much the gap between Gonzalez and the pink jersey, which is on your screen now, but between Pantani and the pink jersey, and Tonkov as well. So there we go. So that's 17 seconds. Whatever happens when we see the pink jersey come through, we can knock 17 seconds off for Pantani here in the green jersey. So the quick swoop off the top of this climb in towards the finish. They've got some 26 kilometres to go now to the finish, or just a fraction more than that, and they're on the climb. Up they go, 11.6 kilometres right at the top of the Passo Sella, and there are 20 points at stake in the King of the Mountains competition, and there'll be 10 for second. So I suggest that probably they're likely to catch Gonzalez. Tonkov's coming through now. Here's Tonkov on your screen. Oh, there's the Union Jack. We haven't any British riders in this one this year. I'm looking forward to the day when some of our young talent comes through. We can actually see the Brits taking part in the Tour of Italy. We have had British successes in the past, because Vin Denson got a stage victory in the Tour of Italy. We've also, sort of an Anglo-Irish way, we've had Martinelli grab a stage victory too as well. And there we are, 1:17 or 1:18. So that means he's about 1 minute behind Pantani at the moment. Now this could be dangerous because the gap now is important between Tonko, who's got Michelli with him, and this bunch here back to Zuller. This is nail-biting stuff, this is. He's got quite a gaggle of riders. Oh, and Belli's got back to him, so at least Belli's come down and joined up with him. But you see the lightish coloured yellow and palish turquoisey blue colours on the shorts. So the Mercato lads are following behind him. Just one of the Psycho Cannondale riders is prepared to go on the front and charge along. In fact, there are two of them in that group at the moment, so without Gotti there, perhaps they might favour their chances of climbing up the general classification a bit. And we can see one of them just pulling off the front now at the moment, and that is Paolo Salvadelli, who'd been riding quite well early on the race. Took a bit of pacing a few days ago and dropped back, but he's got a lot of talent, so now the chance that we got 2:19, maybe 2:20, so knock the 17 off. I'm still at the arithmetic at the moment. That means that the gap back, I make it about a minute between Tonkov and Zuller. So he's still okay at the moment, but they're on this long climb now, and a lot can happen on a climb like this one. As back we are with Camersend. They've caught Gonzalez. They've got Chepi Gonzalez reeled in. The man doing the damage there is Pantani. So we've got something like about less than 3 minutes covering this man here and all the top stars waiting to poise. There, Guarini started out this morning in 5th spot, 4:21 down, so he's got a long way to go to challenge that pink jersey. Buonahora is right off the pace, by the way. He was 54th this morning, 27 seconds down. Guarini and Pantani, I picked those out for you because Pantani this morning 3:48 down. And Gonzalez, well, he's way off the pace too. He's right down the bottom. I'll have to find out where he is, but he's another chap who's no great threat over on general classification. That's why he's been romping away to try and get himself. Oh, I thought for a minute that his legs had frozen, but he was trying to change gear and he's thrown his chain off. Well, the mechanic will not be getting himself a large cup of tea tonight off into Pantani. We're going to clip around the ear, I suppose, because it shouldn't throw off like that. What he did, he flicked his gear lever, it went over, and it's quite a known thing that you can throw it off on the inside, but it shouldn't have worked at this level because there is a stop on the mechanism that as it throws across, it shouldn't go that far down. He's been using that inside ring before as well. One thing that can sometimes happen though with a chain, that they can get a bit more flexible if they change the chain and got him some new equipment just say a day or so ago, and then as it begins to get a bit looser, sometimes it can throw a bit further over. The flicking of the gear lever can give it a sort of good old whack and just threw it off, but he's not so much lost much time as I think he's lost the momentum, and now he's got to get back there again, whereas Zuller here with one of the Mercato Nuno riders on his well. Look, they're picking up some of the back markers that they had earlier on. Belli's gone with it as well there. Bit of pressure being put on. That's Pierre Pulli. Whoops, steady Pantani. He's coming back now. So the gap is growing a little bit now. If Pantani goes past Camersend. Amazing, isn't it? Now, there just shows you how this man can accelerate. Look at this. He's just had a problem. We saw him on the front towing people along. He's just gone past the other two riders like they're standing still. Now he's got to go after Guarini, having to throw it off, but the concentration went for a short while, but he's getting his way back there. Tremendous hill climber, Pantani, especially when it comes to this sort of territory. He really is in his own backyard here, enjoying every minute of it. I think it was Di Poli of the Rosemary Amica Chips teams that was trying to get away there front. You see number 71 has gone back there, so he's got Belli with him as the pink jersey. Alex Zuller could be quite happy with that now. It's a fairly short climb then at 11.6 kilometres, and I think he's riding the right sort of race here, providing he can just keep the tempo going and control his enthusiasm to go and try and chase after this man Marco Pantani. Then you can see that his success is on your screen there at the moment. Pantani surprised everybody in 1994 when he got back-to-back 2 stages in the Tour of Italy. That absolutely shook everybody rigid when he came along and did that, and that really floored everybody with his brilliant performance that time in 1994 when he took 2 stages. He went on then stage winner in the Tour of Switzerland, a couple of stages in the Tour de France, and 2 stages last year as well. In fact, he's won back-to-back the Alpe d'Huez. That climb absolutely suits his style, and Pantani, as already like Veronka said, the Tour de France doesn't suit him this year without enough mountains for him to gain time on the good time trialist. But this particular race this year, although Pantani started this morning off the pace at 3 minutes and 48 seconds of Zuller, and Zuller we know could knock 3 minutes out, anything can happen. Now, Tonkov now beginning to pull away here. This is turning into what a come race. Amazing performance by Pavel Tonkov then, who's really still riding as strongly as can be, and he's got Micheli for company at the moment. So this is quite a turn up for the books. He's looking very strong. We've had some time checks coming in which show that he's about a minute down, minute 30 on the Pantani group, and this is the pink jersey group that was behind that as well. So somehow it looks as if Tonkov, wedged in between the pink jersey and Pantani, is still holding good movement and going quite well indeed. So he's looking good, but then he's only got one rider with him. We wasn't able to assessing him at all, Micheli, whereas Pantani up in the front's got Guarini. So there's an interesting battle going on. Here we are, these 2 riders, they've got rid, seems to like they've got rid of Gonzalez. Camazin is dropped back. Now that could be dangerous. I'm not quite sure whether the team manager of the Mapei Brickaby teams had a word with Camazin, but if Camazin drops back to Tonkov, who's wedged about just over a minute down on these 2, and he starts to work with them, then here he is now. He's getting a time check. I'm just wondering what he's talking about with the commissaire here. But he's just towing Micheli along at the moment. It's very difficult on these bends to see far enough around the road to just check where someone like Camazin has got to. But for my man, I think the sensible thing with the team manager would be to drop him back to help Tonkov, because Camazin 8th this morning over 5:31. Tonkov 2nd at 2 minutes and 2 seconds. Oh, there's trouble! Oh no! Bunahora has suddenly got problems. Well, he was with that early group of Pantani and Gonzalez and Guarini, and he got shelled out a bit. Now it looks like he's punctured or something's gone wrong with his wheel. He's certainly come to a grinding halt, and that'll break his rhythm too. He's got to wait for the team car to come up and give him a replacement or get it off the neutral surface. Let's see this one again. It looks as if his tub has almost rolled off the rim. I'm not quite sure how on earth that has happened, but certainly, I mean, you normally puncture at this, on a climb like this, it goes flat. Your tyre doesn't come off the rim a bit like that, and you can see he's not very happy, but there you are. So he's now got to work his way back again into this group, which you can see here contains Mapei riders from the Mercaton Uno team who won't do anything. That's on the screen there, 103, just pedalling up and looking quite comfortable. That's Conti, Roberto Conti, the Mercaton Uno team. And as ever, the 2 eternal shadows from the Mapei Brickaby team, just behind Zuller, just tracking him all the time. What strength they've got, because there are at least 4 now. Oh, there he is back there. He's got him, yes, and it's regrouping because Chepi Gonzalez has fought his way back up to Pantani and Guarini. Perhaps that, when he threw the chain off, caused Pantani some trouble, but Camazin's got his way back too as well. I thought he dropped back to Tonkov, but he's fought his way back up to the lead, so the team manager is quite happy to let him play the game of chase down Pantani. 122 back to Tonkov, so it's holding about the same. He's opening up a little bit of a gap here, but it's not significant at the moment. 2:42 to the Maglia Rosa. So that means that still the gap right about a minute and a bit between Tonkov and Zuller. So still Zuller in the pink, or at least further down the mountain. I think provided he can ride up at the good rate like this, he could still go to bed tonight wearing the pink jersey. Well, he won't go to bed in it, will he? But I wonder if you have, psychologically, if you have pink pyjamas. Oh, there we are. Those are lovely Dolomites in the background. And I did earlier on the programme explain where the name Dolomite comes from. It comes from a Frenchman named Dolomio. And he was a mineralogist, and in 1789 he was up here having a good look at the mineral content of it, and he has most an amazing name. His name is Diedonis Sylvain Guy Tancredi de Grata de Dolomio, and the Dolomites got named after him. Well, I think as far as these riders are concerned, they've got a different name for them right now, but it's an amazing part of the world, and the funny shapes up there because at one time it was part of a coral bed before the whole thing erupted millions of years ago, and since then they've changed shape. See what up there, the wind and the rain, the snow and the weather conditions have changed the shape of them, and it's really is an amazing part of the world. And right down into the valleys, the Piave River, the Adige rivers, we're going to be down amongst the rivers tomorrow on the stage, and then we go back up into the mountains to finish another tough day tomorrow. So it's going to be a real 3 days of absolute hell. And in fact, my colleague was giving me some measurements, and he said that in the 3 days, I've told you already that they're going to be climbing for 55 kilometres today, that's around about 35 English miles, that they are going to climb all together something around about 150 kilometres of climbing so nearly 100 miles of climbing in these 3 days. And not only that, the actual distance that they're going to climb by a vertical measurement, because they measured all the heights they'll actually go up, is the height of Everest. Believe it or not, yes, in 3 days they will have actually climbed the height of Everest. So it just shows you that these mountains they're in now really are for the specialists. These people are, many of them, like Pantani, knee-high to a grasshopper and weigh no more than about sort of 8 stone wet through. The only wet they've got now at the moment is the sweat that's coming off them under these conditions. And once again, to remind you that Gotti, last year's victor, no longer in the race, having not taken the start this morning, retired yesterday with gastroenteritis following a viral infection he had during the early part of the race. And although we started with about 142 rides this morning, I think we're going to lose probably at least 20 of them seem to have packed it in so far, and a few more might be outside the time limit by the time we get to end of what has been a devastating day's racing. And still the pink jersey, now with a group much more whittled down, not much support. They still got one of his riders with him, Vladimir Belli, and we're back. Oh, Tonkov is coming up now. This is Bunahor up in front, I think. Is he going to catch him now? Tonkov is looking very comfortable indeed on this climb. He's not what you might call a specialist climber like Pantani, but he can just roll around. Now they've collected Bunahor, who had that problem further back down. So let's see what goes on from here. Concentration. Yeah, I think you can puff and blow, Alex. Right, now we should be able to get a time check now with 20 kilometres to go. Let's get the old watch going. And the Spanish, across the screen, by the way, you're probably getting some information coming up, so I will keep the watch going so we can see what the gap is back, because the time is going to be so important at this particular point, back from this little threesome at the front with Chepe Gonzalez at the back, who provided most of the activity in the last hour and a half of racing, and Pantani towing Guarini along here. This particular course has suited Pantani. He came into the race with, he felt not as fit as he'd like to be. He had to cut his racing program. I think he got some cold or bronchitis or something. He had to sort of stop racing for a bit, and it slowed him down. But because the big mountains are coming right at the back, as they often do in the Tour of Italy, it means that he's been able to ride himself in the previous 16 days. And of course, he's already been up there grabbing the stage victory into Pianacavallo, and he took that one. I think he knocked about 20 seconds or something out of Zuller on that occasion. And of course, when he moved up into second place in the time trial the next day, Zuller thundered past him, and it was like, what, 3 minutes and 20 odd seconds ahead of him at the finish of it. Well, there's your time check going. Now what I'm going to do is to check back with Tonkov here, because that's another important one. We'll get the time on the right hand side between Pantani and Zuller. It's still hovering about a minute and a half, but the big question will be, what will be the gap between Tonkov and Zuller, because Tonkov was the nearest to him this morning. Sounds awfully complicated. I'll do the best to keep you in touch with the time scales as Gonzalez the Colombian, still with Guerini and Pantani, the two Italians on this climb. And this is the man, Tonkov and Zuller. That's the big question. Together with Bruno, who had that misfortune to have a problem with his front wheel. And there is a man, unfortunately still with his teammates. There's only what, 2, 4, 6, 7 of them there. He won't get any help from the two Mapei riders, nor the one in the lemony yellow colours with the turquoisey shorts. He won't have any help from those at all, because they've got men up the front. So Zuller's got to ride this one on his own. I rate the gap back from Tonkov to the pink jersey at the moment, 1 minute 16 seconds, and I still haven't gone through that. 20 kilometres to go. It looks like it's going up the gap then. It's now 1:24. He started out this morning 2 minutes and 2 seconds adrift of Tonkov, and he's got to do all the work here on his own. Nobody seems to help him at all except his teammate Belly, and Belly's going back a bit. That's the point in front, and now it's 1:47, 1:48, 1:49, 2 minutes and 2 seconds, and he'll be out of pink technically on the road to Tonkov. Ignore that figure down there. That's Pantani at the moment, and we'll come back to Pantani position. They're showing 3:18 there, but as he comes up towards the point now, I make it 2 minutes and 4 seconds. He started 2 minutes and 2 seconds, so in fact he's now out of the pink jersey by just 2 seconds at the moment. So Zuller is 2 seconds adrift of keeping that pink jersey, and we've still got a long way to go up toward the top of this climb, because it's there's 5 kilometres still to go on the climb, and he's losing ground on Tonkov, he's losing ground on Pantani. But Pantani this morning was 3:48 down, but Pavel Tonkov now is technically leading the Tour of Italy on this stage. What a day we've had in the Tour so far, the Tour of Italy. But now Pantani putting the pressure on, Guerini just following on his wheel behind him. He hasn't done much to aid this break. Occasionally he's come through, but Pantani the one that's been doing all the work. And the rest of this field, 143 of them that started out this morning, are now splattered all down the mountainside under the attempts of this man Pantani to win the stage today and move up on general classification, having lost his lost his position to Zuller. He was really taken to the cleaners on the time trial at Trieste the other day, and now Pantani is showing that if you can catch me, Mr. Zuller, in a time trial, I'll give you a right old thrashing when it comes to the mountains. Now Xavi Gonzalez drifting off the back here. He's always been very exuberant in the mountains, but I think he's done a bit too much now. Guerini putting the pressure on here. As he does so, it is that Pantani's 6 on his wheel, but Xavi Gonzalez, last year's leader on the King of the Mountains competition, just loses contact, and Pantani and Guerini looking very comfortable together here. Guerini not doing a lot of work in this break so far. Pantani's done most of it. When he does come through like that and just go a bit quick, you can see the damage that's been done by that bit of extra effort from the rider from the Polti team. Guerini this morning 4 minutes 21 seconds down, Pantani 3 minutes 48, so the two are quite prepared to work, and of the two of them, Pantani on general classification just some 33 seconds ahead. But this man Tonkov now technically race leader, and what a different contrast in styles we've got between Tonkov here, the Russian, a big chunky sort of chap grinding his way up the climb here and towing those other chaps behind him. Bonahora particularly having had the misfortune to have a problem with his front wheel, and this fellow Michelli has done absolutely nothing. He hasn't done a tap to help Tonkov. And now, it looks like Belly's gone. Zuller's doing it all on his own. I'm going to have to do another time check, because the way things are going at the moment on this climb up towards the top, it looks as if Zuller's beginning to lose more ground, and the Mapei team car has come forward. Yes, I thought so. Kabazin's come back. Now, either Kamazin, in the acceleration we've been seeing going so far, has been dropped and couldn't hold the pace. He has already been dropped once today as Bunahora gets shelled out the back, or has he come back to help Tonkov? He has a lot of instruction coming up from the MAP 18 car. That looks to me like a plan. I thought they might have done it earlier on, but now they have actually done it. Good move then, because you can see suddenly as Kamazin starts to accelerate, the gap's opening up then between the back wheel of Tonkov and that of Michelli. So Kamazin is now about to really help his team leader chase after Pantani, who's just got Guarini with him. The little Colombian climber Gonzalez has been dropped out, so we've got a double header here with Pantani romping up toward the top of this climb. He would be about 3 kilometers from the top of the climb, and when he gets over that, a big drop down the other side. And this one is going to be in memory of the great Fausto Coppi. As we go to the top of this climb, there's a special prize there in memory of the man who really still is the idol, I suppose, of many of the followers of the sport. And to me particularly, I'm sorry I'm going to bore you. I know I had a letter from Mike McGarry in Portsmouth. He said, warning in his letter, David, Fausto Coppi's not mentioned in this letter. Well, I can't help but talk about Fausto Coppi today, because the prize at the top is on behalf of Fausto Coppi, who was born on September the 15th in 1919 and died at 8:45 a.m. on Saturday the 2nd of January 1960. Why am I so precise? Because I've been reading the book The True Story of Fausto Coppi by Jean-Paul Olivier, which has been published by Bromley's Books, and had a lot of work put into it too as well by the help that they received in translation and the work they put in editing by Richard Olchin. So it's well worthwhile having it. It's very much written like a novel. It's got lots of facts and figures at the back of it, but in there, amongst the facts and figures, it did say when Fausto died, he actually went off and got some sort of obscure malaria when he was on a shooting expedition into Africa. Geminiani also had the same problem, and the red blood corpuscles were being attacked by this malaria, and Fausto Coppi died as a result of it. Now 1:42 back to here. I'll just press the clock again at that particular point, because I think at the moment the gap is growing between Pantani and Tonkov. It does. It's 1:30 to begin with, now 1:45, so Pantani is going away, but it depends, as we look at these glorious crags of the Dolomites, what the gap back is to the pink jersey. And it was on this particular mountain that Bartoli and Fausto Coppi battled their way over. When the first time they went over this, they didn't use the Dolomites for many years in the Tour, but now they're using them. And Fausto was still racing at the age of 40 when, I say, he caught that terrible virus and died as a result of it. But what a man! He won 138 races on the road alone, and he was a man at the age of 20 who won this Giro d'Italia. That was in 1940. That was during the war, because Italy hadn't entered the war at that particular point, so they kept the racing season going. And the Tour of Italy in 1940, the tender age of 20, Fausto Coppi won the Tour of Italy that year. He went on to take the hour record during the war, 1942. Amazingly enough, at the Vigorelli track, he broke the hour record at the age of 22, and he was eventually captured by the British and spent about 20 months as a prisoner of war, which affected his performances over the years, because he would have been, I think, much more able to win a lot more races. But even so, he was the world champion on the road championship in 1953. He was pursuit champion in 1947 and 1949, Italian champion no less than 4 times, broke the hour record, and he won the Tour of Italy in 1940, 47, 49, 52 and 53, and he won the Tour de France in 49 and 52. And he had a style, I've likened to some ways the style of Zulla, with his big chest and his lanky long legs, because Fausto Coppi had got great big thighs and very spindly little legs, and a bit like Zulla, he was very fragile. He would often fall off and break something, and of course Zulla's inclined to fall off as well. But Fausto, they're about 3:50 back there at the moment, and I reckon it's still just over about 2 minutes and 6 seconds between Zulla and Tonkov. So Tonkov is going away, just a little bit away from Zulla. It's only a handful of seconds, but it still means this man at the front of this little group of threesome here is technically race leader on the road. tremendous battle we've got going on here before your very eyes on Eurosport. The first time we're covering the Tour of Italy from back to back, right through, from front to back for you. And I know in the past we haven't been able to do it, but we're bringing it to you now. This great race, it's second in importance to the Tour de France, and it's getting more and more international. These Festina riders are over here to promote the watch manufacturer in Spain. I've mentioned it before, and I hope I don't bore you with saying it again, but I've never seen so many ads in the Gazzetta dello Sport, the sponsoring newspaper for watches, as they have this year. I think all the other watch manufacturers said we'll stop them coming on our doorstep, and we'll advertise like crazy in the Gazzetta dello Sport. So there's wars of all sorts going on out here, battles to see who's going to win the stage, battles to see who's going to take the green jersey of King of the Mountain. But I think we'll certainly stay with the man you see wearing it now, Pantani, and also battles between the watch manufacturers because the pink jersey happens to ride for one. So that's a jolly interesting sort of situation we've got now, and Guarini is beginning to move some up to the front and do a bit of work. That's good, I think, that he's starting to run through at the front. It'll aid Pantani looking for the stage victory to add to the one he got in Piancavello on the 30th of May when he took over the green jersey of the King of the Mountains. Just looking back at yesterday, by the way, I mentioned earlier on our programme, you might have missed it, that Bettini jumped up into third place yesterday by having that tremendous break. At one time he was 15 minutes clear of the pink jersey. They pulled him back in towards the end. Well, he's got spat out the back of this one, so he's going to drop from his third place down, probably having difficulty staying in the top 20. But he had his moments of glory yesterday, even though he did finish second on the spot. Oh, it's a nice one on the left-hand side. Somebody's got all the jerseys draped over on the cars, built up on some sort of cardboard cutouts. 1:53. Oh, it's growing, definitely growing at the moment then. So despite the help of Camazin, Pantani and Guarini are beginning to pull away from these three here. Now, quick bit of mental arithmetic here. I've been concentrating on Tonkov, knowing he's just ahead of Pantani, but Pantani, Tonkov this morning started 1 minute and 46 seconds between Pantani and Tonkov on general classification. So can Pantani take the green and the pink jersey? This is going to be some performance from Pantani. 3:48 ahead of, 3:48 behind Zuller this morning. We'll have to start writing down some times at the top of this climb, because once they drop over the top of the Passo Sella, they zoom down, and I don't think there's going to be much opportunity for anybody to pull back more than a handful of seconds on this end. So this, at the top of the climb, could set the scene for this, the 17th stage of the Tour of Italy, and at the end of it all, it could be that whatever we see here now could be the situation down the bottom. Bear in mind also, as I go through here, that at the finish there's going to be 12 seconds for the first man over the line. There's going to be 8 seconds for second and 4 for third. So Pantani stays away and gets the stage as well. He gets an extra 12 seconds. So Pantani and Tonkov and Zuller are locked in a combat now. You're watching on Eurosport the battle of the people, the specialist climbers like Pantani, the all-rounders like Tonkov and Zuller. Though Zuller is a marginally better rider against the watch than Tonkov, and this is the battleground where it's being fought out. Pantani's still taking Guarini with him. Guarini this morning 4:21. He was behind Pantani by some 30-odd seconds, so I don't think he can get away from Pantani and threaten the overall position. But we're going to see quite a shaker now as we go up over the top of this very famous climb indeed. Michelli hanging on in there. We're right up on the top now. We'll be swooping down shortly. The massive mountain of the Marmolada looming in the background as they go towards this one, and the time checks will be here. Let's write this down as they go through. Pantani and Guarini. I've got to write it down because they're jumping all over the place, these riders, and I've got so much paper here I could open a shop, I think, with second-hand paper. Well, that's it, they're over the top. The Marmolada, the actual mountain itself is 3,343 metres above sea level. I think it's the highest mountain in Italy, and we're heading up towards Austria. It's a part of the world where they speak quite a strange language here, by the way. We've come through an area which was squeezed in the old days between the Austrian Empire and the Roman Empire and the Latins, and they have they're actually known as Latins up here, Ladinis, and they have a rather strange language too, Latin Romansh of their own round here, that people speak both German and some very little Italian too. So we're going into a very unusual part of the world here, over the top and down the other side, as the clock running for the Russian here, Tonkov, concentrate on this climb, towing up cameras in now. It looks to me as if Pantani has in fact increased this gap over here. Tonkov, 10 victories last year, won the stage and the overall, the Giro Romandie, 3 stages in the Tour of Italy when he finished 2nd overall. A couple of stages in the Tour of Spain, we saw him win those last year too, and now looking to see if he can get himself up there in the pink jersey. Now it's going to be like this, down to within about 2 kilometres of the finish, 2.5 kilometres in from the finish, so there's very little chance of much ground being caught up. So whatever the time scale over the top was, you see it on your clock now, running that watch as they come up now. So the gap then from Pantani back to Tonkov as he comes through here, and the next interesting time check will be back to Zuller, and it's 2:02. So they've actually increased their lead, Pantani and Guerini, at the top of the climb. And this next time check back here to Zuller will be the critical one. I'm doing a quick sum on the back of a fag packet here, because Pantani this morning 3 minutes 48 down on general classification, and Pavel Tonkov 2:02, that's 6:46, 1:40. In fact, 1 minute 46 seconds separated Pantani from Tonkov this morning. They've just gone over 2. In fact, Pantani is now heading for the pink jersey. On my calculation, 2 minutes and 2 seconds between Pantani and Tonkov. The gap is sufficient because 1:46 between the two of them. Now Pantani is ahead of Tonkov on the general classification. And everybody you see on the side that are quickly looking at their watches too. I'm doing the same thing, because we're going to get two checks here as far as I'm concerned, because Zuller was going to be back on Pantani, and then we can time check to see whether Tonkov is lying 2nd or 3rd, or where Zuller's placed. So Pantani has got Guerini with him for help here. These two could absolutely murder the overall situation. And Guerini, who started just behind Pantani this morning, just those, what, 13 seconds adrift. So they have a bit of a chat here. Okay, do we ride? Yeah, okay. 10 kilometres to go then for these two at the front. And my watch is still running back. Here we are to Zuller. It's now showing 1:55. And this morning Pantani was 2 minutes and 2 seconds down on Zuller was 2:02 on Tonkov. And that's gone, so he's lost it to Tonkov, but he could also lose out to Pantani as well, because Pantani was ahead of Tonkov. So the whole thing has changed tremendously now on this climb. Zuller looks like he's dropping out of 2nd, dropping out of 3rd, and in fact Guerini might move up as well. So the whole thing can go pear-shaped, as they say, on this climb up the Marmolada, up the cellar to, in memory of Fausto Coppi. The award went to Pantani at the top there, but now it's 4:37 back to Alex Zuller, and I make him 2 minutes 34 seconds adrift of Tonkov. So certainly Tonkov is ahead of him. Certainly Pantani is ahead of Tonkov. So right now the thing has turned itself completely upside down, and it looks as if Pantani could be heading for the pink jersey, but Tonkov is also a good descender and might go that little bit faster when we go on the flat. So the whole race is delicately poised. Let's hope they stay upright on the descents. Fortunately, it's dry weather. They've had a following wind for most today. It'll be a fast run into the finish, where the Tour of Italy could change shape yet again. Stay with us on Eurosport for more action.
Which club does Stefan Chapusat play for? Borussia Dortmund, Ajax, or Anderlecht? It's your turn to play. You have the chance to win one of 3 pocket video game stations with a football simulation game offered each week. And That's not all. You could also win a Eurosport cap. Call the hotline right now and you'll get an extra clue. And good luck.
On this descent with Pantani, technically the overall race leader on the road. He's got a 14-second advantage over Tonkov, according to my measurement now, on the to take over the pink jersey. So that looks like he could well take the pink jersey tonight, because there's time bonuses of 12, 8 and 4 seconds, so he might well take the pink jersey. He certainly is ahead of Alex Zuller now, because this morning he was some 3:48 down on Zuller. Well, he's just gone through at 4:37, so he's a minute ahead of Alex Zuller. Now, that in itself, Zuller might be riding. He looked a bit rough when we've seen him a few times, but Zuller has knocked 3 minutes out of Pantani in the time trial, and we've got a time trial on the last day but one from Mendrisa to Lugano, and he could pull back whatever he loses today if only today was the last day in the Manners, but it's not, because tomorrow we're going up the Alpe di Pampiego, and that is 1,750 metres above sea level, and it's a completely uphill run. It's going to finish at altitude tomorrow at the Alpe del Pampiego, and the next day at the Plan di Monte Campione we again finish 1,750 metres above sea level. So we've got two mountaintop finishes in quick succession, and what Pantani's got to do here is to go down as fast as he can do, psychologically take over the pink jersey, which will put him into the next two stages with his tail well up and looking forward to defending that pink jersey for 2 days. But also he then knows he's got to punch probably at least 3 minutes out of Zuller before we get to the time trial. And at the moment he's only just knocked back the time he lost in the time trial on this one stage, so he's got 2 more stages to do it. But will Zuller recover? Can he deal with the problem tomorrow? Can his team recover to help him? We'll have to wait and see. It really is an amazing race we've got here, changing so much towards the back end, changing all the way through, by the way, because as we're watching them come down this mountain now, we've had so many different stage victories. Apart from Mr. Cipollini, who's bagged 4 of the stages, Zuller took the prologue time trial on day 1, then Piccoli took the next one, Ado of the Calmi team took the next one, then Minali, then Michelli, then Cipollini took the first of 4. Zuller got another one at Laceno. Magnussen won a stage, Noe, Rooks, Bartoli, Pantani, back again to Zuller and Fantanelli. So Zuller has been there with 3 stage victories, one of which was the time trial, one of which the prologue time trial. So we've had lots of different stage victors in this race. The jerseys have been changing several times too as well. And talking of jerseys, as they're dropping down here, unfortunately Laurent Rooks, when we were in Trieste when the time trial took place in Trieste, he had his jersey, his pink jersey that he took over for 1 day in the Tour of Italy, was stolen from his hotel. It's terrible. There's not another rider too. I think the Psycho team had a lot of money stolen as well from a hotel, so there are thieves about, and great disappointment then to lose the pink jersey, have it stolen. Of course the organisation will find him another one, but he said it was symbolic to him that the actual jersey that he wore on the day in the Tour, that's gone now, and if they give him another pink jersey it won't be the same as actually wearing the one he did for 1 day in the race. But that's nasty when people nick things like that and smash into your hotel rooms and pinch your stuff, particularly when these lads are athletes out there racing. 5 kilometres to go, and Pantani and Guarini undoubtedly on their way to a 1 and 2, providing they don't fall off. And I say that there's another at least 3 kilometres downhill like this. They seem to be having quite a chat. I think they're prepared to ride together. Going back to Bartoli, he's decided to ride on. He'd like to have that Ciclamino jersey in Milan now. I think it's jolly good when riders do that, because I think they have an obligation to the public, and he will certainly have a hero's welcome when they get into Milan. Now, I wonder whether these two are saying, look, do we ride it together or do we attack each other? And I suggest the best thing to do, lads, is to keep stuck in, keep going on, don't jump around too much on this run in towards the finish, because you could do with every second you need, Mr. Pantani. And then the interesting thing will be what will happen when we come to the final sprint. The special bonus is 12, 8 and 4 seconds for first, second and third. That will add to Pantani's store of points, of time, if he can get there. Either first, even 8 seconds will do him. So he's in for a very good position here, is Pantani. Well, Alex Zülle on the descent, desperately trying to save every vital second he can do. He's got the time checks coming in, and they know now what their time checks are. 4:31 back. Well, Pantani knows it was 3:48, so he certainly is riding into the pink jersey, provided that Pavel Tonkov doesn't come up closer than 1:46. So there's a double battle in. If Pantani was trying to work it out for himself, it's easy to know what he's done to Zülle, but the thing is, what has happened to Tonkov? So Tonkov's a very good deal. 1:49. Oh, it's 1:46 this morning. There's only 3 seconds in it then for Tonkov, and but there are time bonuses. There are 12 seconds for first and 8 seconds for third, so whatever happens now, it's so close for Tonkov to probably take the pink jersey, but he's got some extra seconds bonus. Tonkov certainly will be riding better on that descent. He's a heavier fellow. Pantani does not have the same power output people like Tonkov and Zülle. He turns out about 400 watts where they're doing like 450 watts, and this is not the really ideal territory as far as he's concerned, so the gaps could be coming down now on that little bit of I'd say flat. It's been a false flat, a bit of a drag in there too, and they're running towards the finish, so Tonkov might be taking advantage of his power to close that gap. It was 1:46 then this morning between these two on the general classification, and this man might then be riding into pink. What a chase we've got. 1:46 I make. Yep, and certainly Pantani is going to need the help of Guarini here to roll as hard they can do. Guarini of these two, I think, coming in probably the stronger when it would come through to the finish, but Pantani will be hoping desperately that he gets that 12 seconds bonus. Every second's going to count now. And now he comes through. They're both working together. I can't wait for tomorrow and the next day when we finish up at altitude, because whatever happens today, if Tonkov does sniff the pink jersey off, and then Pantani providing they'll recover well enough for tomorrow and the day after that, could be the best tip to get to stage week. Just imagine if we've got one good day today, 2 good days tomorrow in the mountain. I wonder if Pantani can get himself a hat-trick of victories. That really would be something, wouldn't it? A great reward to him after the problems that he had when he broke both legs. If you're watching cycle races the first time, he was involved in a terrible crash, Pantani, and he had to spend a lot of time in plaster trying to get back into suppleness, get his muscles back again, because his legs virtually wasted away when he had the crash. What happened was he was going down October, not last year, the year before that, that's right. He was going down a descent, very fast descent, and the officials allowed, at least I think they allowed out, there was some sort of concern as to exactly how it happened, but out onto the track came, onto the road, came a four-wheel vehicle, one of those nasty things with all bull bars and God knows what else on the front of it, and Pantani went slap bang into it and broke both his legs. Very severe break it was too, and they had to do a lot of treatment now, and Pantani has been really fighting himself back into form, and here he is now trying to get the stage victory to give him those extra 12 seconds vital bonus that he desperately needs to try and dislodge both the pink jersey off the shoulders of Zülle, but off the shoulders of Tonkov, because Tonkov is a threat today for this one. Certainly these two, I shouldn't chat, lads, get stuck in, because the gap at one time looked like you've got the pink jersey, Marco, but right now I think the pirate himself might find himself plundered if he's not careful. Amazing character, this man. Fracture, I say, he's had lots of accidents. I'm just looking down the little list here. In his first year as a junior rider, he fractured his collarbone in 1990. He had another got fractured again, some ribs in a big crash. He's had, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tremendous crashes in his time now. It was 18th of October, Milan Turin, 1995, that's right, when he had a crash as well, and smashed his legs up. So here he comes now, a man who's very prone to fall off and break things. He's only 5'7" tall and weighs only 7 stone 11 ounces, so he's typically built as a climber, isn't he, Pantani? And the crowd applauding here his performance on the way through to challenge for the, first of all, the tape, stage, as Guarini looked the stronger of the two. I thought Guarini might be able to take the stage, but let's see if he can get it, that run in towards the finish. after the 50 centres mean that the gap might be coming down with Tonkov. There you are, lads. You go that way, the cars go the other. And Guarini has got the power to come through and get that one. I thought he was the stronger of the two, and Guarini would get it. And there it is then. Guarini is getting the victory, and the clock showing on the right-hand side the gap back. Now, the gap to watch out for now is 1 minute and 46 seconds back to Tonkov to see if the pink jersey goes over the shoulders of Pantani. I don't think that Zuller can come down fast enough and along that flat and false flat bit. A little bit of a climb towards the end there, fast enough to pull back the gap, which we saw the last one, 4 minutes and 37 seconds. And it's 1 minute 46 seconds, then back to Tonkov. The count down the right-hand side is the one to watch. Tonkov now starting to go away. His teammate Kamazin dropping off the pace now. And also that Pantani will have got a bonus of 8 seconds of being second, so that makes it 22 seconds is the deficit. 146 then, plus 4, so plus 8 is 152, isn't it? So let's see what he can do here.
Sono rimasti Tonkov e Gonzalez alle spalle di Guarini e Pantani che sono già arrivati.
Yeah, 152 is the value back to Tonkov, and there's 4 seconds bonus as well for third spot. It's making it very difficult here, isn't it? Say 150. If Tonkov gets third, he needs to be 1 minute 50 seconds. It's now 121, 122. It's now come on your screen now. It looks like he can probably take over the pink jersey as he comes in now. Can he do it then? 150 I've got on my clock. Sounds like an auctioneer. The 150 is the one that he's got to get inside to take that jersey. Can he do it then? 140 on the clock. He's going to bite his way through. There's now only 8 seconds to take the pink jersey according to my calculations, and it's now 147, 150. Well, he's not going to get the bonus of 4 seconds either, and so Tonkov, who looked like he was closing the gap at one time, is running out of steam, and he's going to come in behind the pirate himself at 2 minutes and 2 seconds, less the fact that the pirate also gained an 8-second time bonus, so he's 2:10 back on the pirate, and he started this morning 1:46 adrift. So in fact Pantani could be in pink. He could not only be there in pink, he took the second place. He wears the green jersey of the man who's leading on the King of the Mountains, and the gap this morning between Pantani and the jersey of Alex Zuller looks like he's well and truly got that one now, because it was at 3 minutes and 48 seconds was the gap, and now they've got a good kilometre to go in towards the finish, and I can't see that Zuller can get through in that time. But Zuller's come a lot quicker off the top of that mountain, 3:48 plus the bonus that he got this morning, but just now of 8 seconds for Pantani, so 3:40 and 3:48, 8 seconds bonus. Michelli coming in here on his way through. Well, Michelli was 16th this morning at 7:51, so he'll move up the general classification. And coming on in for the Rosemary and Amica Chips team, he's done a jolly good ride here. De Pauli coming in to finish. He will move himself up on the general classification. He was fairly well down anyway. He's had a good day today for his team, but Zuller is the one. I've got 3:27 on my clock at the moment as a gap back to here to Zuller, and he started out this morning 3:48 ahead of Pantani. No, it's gone. The pink jersey is gone now for Zuller, but even though he's going to start losing it by a few seconds today, tomorrow those two, mountaintop finish tomorrow and the day after that, if he loses much more than about 3 minutes, then he's going to find it difficult to get it back on the time trial on the final Saturday. So there it is. Goodbye to the pink jersey for Alex Zuller, but he's still not lost a lot of time, and Pantani will have to really try tomorrow and the next day to punch that gap out of him. Because I'm just having a quick look at the time trial stage as how far it is later on in the race. So here comes the pink jersey now off the shoulders of Zuller, who manfully has fought his way through to try and defend that jersey. He hasn't had much help from his team in the last few miles, but he's still in there battling away now, grimacing with the effort of the time trial, of the ride. The time trial just worked out, it's 34 kilometres, and that is not an ideal distance for Pantani, as Zuller comes in now at 4 minutes and 36 seconds. So bye-bye to the the pink jersey for him. In that time trial on the Saturday, there's only one little blip at a place called Serengo, a small little climb, and it goes up a little bit towards the back end at Lugano, bit of a climb in that, but it's not a mountain swamp by any means, so it will mean that again that he could probably knock at least 3 minutes out of Pantani. So the next 2 days, Pantani's got to put at least 4 to 5 minutes into Zulla on the next days. You see the big mountains looming up in the distance there. Well, tomorrow the race will start off from the town here where we're finishing, and then go down the mountain in towards the river, along to by the river Sacco, along to a place called Bolzano, or Bozen in the language of the Austrians, because this is much fought over between the Austrians and the Italians over the time, and we're working our way dead south tomorrow to finish up at the Alpe di Pampego. It curls back at itself. Very interesting finish to the whole of the day tomorrow. The early part of the race not too active really. They don't hit the first of the climbs until we've covered some 74 kilometres. Then we have two in quick succession, of the one over the Obergegen and then the one of the Passo di Lavarazzi, and that's at 83 kilometres, and then there's a bit of a sort of lull in the proceeding before we start up again. But a beautiful view here of the valleys, because we're at the top of one of the valleys dropping down in, and we came through a place called Canazei. That's part of the Valley di Fesa. It was destroyed by fire in 1912, and sorry about that breaking up on our pictures, but I just told you how glorious the crags are up at the top there, with the Marmelo, the highest peak, 3,341 metres above sea level. And this is the part of the world where the Emperor Tiberius sent the Roman soldiers out, and the Celts were in the mountains and the valleys all around here, and the soldiers, when they stayed behind here, that's why they speak a different language. Ladini is coming from this part of the world, and the sort of food you eat is a combination really of that from Austria and that from Italy. There's going to be some very tired riders coming in here, by the way, today, and as the victory of the stage goes to Guerini. And there we are. And the 12 seconds bonus went with it too, as far as he was concerned. So Guerini this morning, having started out at 4:21 down on the overall on the jersey of Alex Zulla. I'm just having a quick check again at that time gap, because Zulla came in was it 4:36, so he was 4:21. He could, with his 12-second bonus as well, he could now be ahead of Zulla on general classification, so Guerini's going to be very happy indeed. The overall situation tomorrow, as you see there up on your screen, is going to be very, very close indeed. We'd like to see Pantani, Guerini and Tonkov separated by only a few seconds. Kamazin this morning was also nicely placed up there. He was at 5 minutes and 31 seconds. So the chaps are going to suffer most of all. Bettini will drop out the frame. Andrea Noe and Bartoli, all the lads from the ASIC CJ team, are going to find themselves dropping out of the frame when we come to do the general classification. And for my calculations, it means that Pantani will take over the lead. Tonkov could be second, Guerini closely with him in third spot, but that's just as I see it now, as we're up here in this beautiful Dolomites. And there we are, classification general. Yeah, well, as I said, look, only 31 seconds covering the top three. Alex Zulla, 1 minute and 1 second back, and Oscar Kamazin, so my quick calculations here have come out right, and just 30 seconds across the top, or 31 seconds across the top three riders. So what a great day we're going to have tomorrow. In these mountains, they're going to go down into the valley and then come back in a circle and back up again, and that is really going to be a big day's racing, and I'm looking forward to it as well. We're not on early tomorrow morning. I think we're just coming back on round about 4 o'clock. Depends on the tennis as to what time we do come back on air on Eurosport for the activity at Paris. Of course, is very important, as what we're seeing here on your screens with the riders in the Tour of Italy being brought to you by some amazing bits of television. We've got the camera stuck down on the seat tube on the bicycles. They've also moved one up to the head tube the other day, as now comes the pink jersey to Marco Pantani. The gentleman in the funny hat, by the way. I think that Pantani might appreciate that, because he's known to be a bit of a character when it comes to wear. I've seen him with sort of a scarf wrapped around his head. You see the sort of way in which he has the stud in his ear. And I wonder if he's going to invent a song. He made a song about 2 years ago for the Tour of Italy, or somebody did. He sang one about the Giro d'Italia. Every time they opened the programme up, they used the Pantani song, because that was the year that he couldn't ride since he broke his legs. But there he is now. And Pantani then happy to take over that pink jersey, and really they call him La Mosca in Italy as well, because they call him the Fly, because he's well, particularly when he puts those sunglasses on, he looks a bit like a fly. Started racing when he was 12 years of age, and he's already been a good junior, and now he's here taking the pink jersey in the Tour. And so with Pantani in the pink jersey, Zuller will really have to try hard. He's still within 1 minute of Pantani. It's not over yet, not until the fat lady starts to sing, and the Italians love the opera, and we're going to have a tremendous finish, a real cliffhanger, because providing no more than 3 or 4 minutes separate the riders on Saturday, and Pantani might lose it. So I hope you join me tomorrow then. We're going off to the tennis, to the dulcet tones of Simon Reed and Fru Macmillan. For me, bye-bye.